Pay attention. Do you believe betrayal can kill your spirit? Watch Mark turn hell into triumph. Woo! I survived what was supposed to destroy me. Power, a self-discovery, a new Mark. Want to know how he did it? Subscribe and hit the bell. You won't believe what's coming next. Leave a comment. Is your story stronger than betrayal?
Chapter 5, Epilogue, A New Beginning.
Warning! What happens when a man loses everything, his wife, his brother, his family, and still finds the courage to rebuild? This incredible healing journey will change the way you view betrayal forever.
It had been nearly a year since Mark's world had come crashing down around him, the devastating betrayal of his wife Sarah and his own brother David leaving him shattered and adrift. The legal battle had been long and arduous, but in the end, Mark had emerged victorious, the truth of his ex-wife's infidelity exposed for all to see. As he stepped out into the bright sunlight, Mark felt a sense of freedom he hadn't experienced in what felt like an eternity. The weight of the past had not been lifted entirely, but there was a newfound lightness in his step, a renewed sense of purpose that had been absent during the darkest days of his ordeal. "I survived what should have destroyed me," he whispered to himself, the warm breeze carrying his words into the universe as a testament to his resilience. Gone were the days of living out of his car, of scraping by on the bare minimum while his toxic family members begged him for financial assistance. Mark had reclaimed his life, rebuilding it from the ashes of his shattered dreams with a determination that surprised even himself. In the aftermath of the divorce, Mark had taken a step back, severing ties with the family members who had turned their backs on him. It had been a difficult decision, one that had left him feeling adrift and alone, but he knew deep down that it was a necessary act of self-preservation. With his newfound freedom, Mark had thrown himself into his work, pouring his energy into rebuilding his career. The promotion he had earned in the midst of his personal turmoil had been a lifeline, a chance to regain a sense of purpose and stability in the chaos that had consumed him. As he walked the bustling city streets, Mark couldn't help but marvel at the transformation he had undergone. Gone was the broken, defeated man who had once stumbled through life, his spirit crushed by the weight of betrayal. In his place stood a resilient, self-assured individual, one who had stared down the abyss and emerged stronger for it. The journey had not been an easy one, and there were still moments when the memories of Sarah and David's betrayal threatened to overwhelm him. But Mark had learned to confront those demons head-on, to embrace the pain and the anger as necessary steps towards healing and redemption. Imagine a moment of calm, the soft whisper of possibility, the gentle touch of self-discovery, and the profound realization that sometimes losing everything is the doorway to finding yourself truly, a gift disguised as devastation. In the quiet moments of reflection, Mark would often think back to the pivotal decision he had made to cut ties with his toxic family members. It had been a difficult choice, one that had left him feeling isolated and adrift, but in the end, it had been the catalyst for his transformation. By severing those unhealthy connections, Mark had freed himself to focus on his own well-being, to prioritize his own needs and to surround himself with people who truly understood and supported him. It was a decision that had not come easily, but one that had ultimately paved the way for his remarkable recovery. Now, remember, every moment matters, every heartbeat is a promise of new beginnings, so cherish every second. Mark had written in his journal the night before, words that now guided his steps forward. As Mark walked, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in the person he had become. The scars of his past were still visible, a testament to the trials he had endured, but they no longer weighed him down. Instead, they served as a reminder of his strength, of the resilience that had carried him through the darkest of times. In the months that followed, Mark had slowly rebuilt his life, one step at a time. He had found a new apartment, one that felt like a sanctuary, a space untainted by the memories of his former life. He had cultivated a network of supportive friends, people who had stood by him throughout his ordeal and who now celebrated his triumphs. And perhaps most importantly, Mark had rediscovered his passion for his work, throwing himself into his role with a renewed vigor and determination. The promotion he had earned had been a turning point, a tangible sign that he was more than the sum of the betrayal he had suffered. This is what reclaiming your power looks like, he thought, when you refuse to let someone else's betrayal define your story. As he walked the familiar streets, Mark couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in how far he had come. The journey had been arduous, filled with moments of despair and self-doubt, but he had emerged from the ashes stronger and more resilient than ever before. In the distance, Mark caught sight of a familiar face, a former colleague, someone he had once considered a friend. The man's eyes widened with surprise as he recognized Mark, and for a moment, Mark felt a twinge of trepidation, the memories of his past still fresh in his mind. But as the man approached, his expression shifted from one of surprise to one of genuine warmth and admiration. "Mark, is that you? I hardly recognized you." Mark couldn't help but smile, the tension in his shoulders easing as he shook the man's hand. "It's good to see you," he replied, his voice steady and confident. The two men exchanged pleasantries, and as they did, Mark couldn't help but feel a surge of pride in the transformation he had undergone. Gone was the broken, defeated man he had once been. In his place stood an individual who had reclaimed his life, who had risen above the darkness and embraced a future filled with endless possibilities. As the conversation drew to a close, the former colleague grasped Mark's hand, his eyes shining with a newfound respect. "I'm glad to see you doing well, my friend. You've been through a lot, but it's clear that you've come out the other side stronger than ever." Mark nodded, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "It hasn't been easy, but I'm grateful for the journey. It's taught me a lot about myself and what I'm capable of." With a final handshake and a heartfelt farewell, the two men parted ways, and Mark continued on his path, his steps lighter, his spirit buoyed by the encounter. As he walked, Mark couldn't help but reflect on the parallel journey of the other man he had come to know through the shared experience of betrayal, Daniel, the 33-year-old whose wife had also been unfaithful. Mark had followed Daniel's story with a keen interest, drawn to the similarities and the differences in their respective experiences. "I thought I knew what strength was," Mark reflected, "but I was wrong. True strength isn't avoiding pain, it's walking through it and emerging whole on the other side." While Daniel had found solace in the unwavering support of his family, Mark had been forced to navigate the aftermath of his betrayal largely on his own family members turning against him in the wake of the scandal. And yet, both men had emerged from the ashes of their shattered lives, reclaiming their dignity in their sense of purpose. Mark knew that their stories were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of the most devastating betrayals, there was always the possibility of redemption. It was a lesson he had learned the hard way, but one that he now carried with him, a guiding light in the uncertain terrain of his future. Attention! You have discovered the secret. Now, listen carefully. Healing from betrayal doesn't mean forgetting, it means building something so beautiful that your past becomes merely a chapter, not the whole story. As he continued on his way, Mark couldn't help but feel a sense of optimism, a renewed sense of purpose that had been absent during the darkest days of his ordeal. The road ahead was still uncertain, but he no longer feared the unknown. Instead, he embraced it, ready to face whatever challenges lay in store, armed with the knowledge that he had the strength and the determination to overcome them. In the distance, the sun began to set, painting the sky in a breathtaking array of colors. Mark paused for a moment, taking in the sight, a sense of peace washing over him. It was a reminder that even in the midst of the darkest of times, there was always the promise of a new dawn, a chance to start anew and to embrace the endless possibilities that lay before him. With a deep breath, Mark continued on his way, his steps steady and sure. He knew that the journey ahead would not be an easy one, but he was no longer afraid to face it head-on. The betrayal he had suffered had changed him, forged him into a stronger, more resilient individual, and he was ready to embrace the future, whatever it may hold. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Mark couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. He had been through the fire, and he had emerged from it, his spirit unbroken and his determination unshakable. This wasn't just survival, this was rebirth. This wasn't just moving on, this was transformation. No, wait, stop, don't do this. The voice of fear had once whispered in his darkest moments. But Mark had learned to silence that voice, to trust in his own strength and his own worth. And now, as he stood at the threshold of a new chapter in his life, Mark felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. The past no longer defined him, it merely informed who he had become. And who he had become was someone worthy of love, respect, and happiness. This is what it means to truly heal from betrayal, not by forgetting the past, but by refusing to let it dictate your future. Mark's journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. And for the first time in a long time, he was excited to see where it would lead. Coming next, Story 3, Shattered Ties.
Are you ready for an even more shocking tale of betrayal that will leave you speechless? Join us next week for Shattered Ties, the story of a woman who discovered her husband's 15-year affair with her sister. How did she rebuild her life after losing her marriage and her family? What secret strength did she discover that helped her not just survive, but thrive? This powerful story of female resilience will inspire anyone who's ever felt betrayed, abandoned, or lost. If you've ever wondered how to rebuild your confidence after betrayal or find love again after 40, this is the story that will change everything you thought you knew about healing. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss this life-changing story. Our community of strong women supporting each other grows stronger with every shared experience. Remember to leave a comment below about what Mark's journey taught you. Did his story help you see your own path to healing differently?
Adrift in your shadow, your breath keeps me still. The night wraps around us, bends time to my will. In dreams we are endless, no space in between. A place made of whispers where silence can sing. Take me to sleep where the stars never end. Lost in the rhythm, we don't have to pretend. Floating in waves where the night will defend. Take me to sleep where the stars never end. Hands, 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 hands. Every beat pulls me deeper inside. Your touch is a current, a velvet tide. Oh, wake me now, let this feeling abide. In your arms, I'm forever.